Hi everyone, I'm Whitney and I am back for another Sew Your Stash update. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Sew Your Stash is a personal challenge that I started this year, and I extended the challenge to you all to work on sewing using fabric or yarn or supplies from your stash, and also trying to finish up your works in progress or UFOs, whatever you want to call them. And so yeah, we have a Facebook group going on. There are more than 1,000 members in the group already, and that is so awesome. You all have been posting so many amazing pictures of projects that you're making using your stash, and I am loving it. So if you're new to the challenge, make sure to check out the entire playlist, which is linked right up here in the information icon, and that'll kind of get you more up to date on what all is going on. But for this video, I am going to talk about all of the progress I have made, and I have a lot to talk about. I am so excited. My last update or two, I didn't have as much to talk about, which was kind of a bummer, but this time I have been busting out projects like crazy. And so the first two I want to talk about are works in progress or unfinished objects, UFOs, that I finally finished. The first one is this. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know this is a project I started a long time ago. I actually designed and started making this busy book before I was even pregnant with my daughter, and she's 2. So it's been about 4 years since I started this project. It is finally finished. I am so excited. I haven't been working on it this entire time. I made the cover and then I put it aside for a long time. And then I made a couple more pages and put it aside for a long time. And then a week or two ago, I just decided I have got to finish it before my daughter gets too old to even enjoy it. And so that day I was like, I'm gonna finish this. I'm not working on anything else until I finish it, and it's gonna happen. If it's not perfect, that's fine. And I actually was able to complete it that day, which was an amazing feeling. So here is the cover of the book, and then the inside is full of just a bunch of fun pages. That's my favorite. And yeah, I will have a separate video where I go into more detail and show all the ins and outs of all the pages and everything. But for this video, that is a huge, huge victory for me. Another work in progress that I had going on was a denim rag quilt. It's huge. I started this, oh gosh, I don't know. I'll have to look back on my Instagram because I posted a picture when I had all the denim squares cut out. So I'll have to go back and see how old that was. But I wanted it to be like humongous. And so it can cover a twin size bed. So it is really big. It is 10 squares by 16 squares, and they were cut out using my 6.5 inch grid ruler. So you do the math, it's big. The front is denim that was cut from old jeans and things, and then the back is a bunch of different plaids. And I really love it. I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I literally just finished it. I have not even clipped threads. I haven't thrown it in the wash yet, because if you know anything about rag quilts, the more you wash it, the better they will fray and the edges will get soft and everything, and it's really nice. I do have a kind of a partial how-to on how to make these, so I will link that up here as well if you're interested in that. And it'll be a pain to wash, that's for sure, because it's going to be so heavy once it's wet, but I don't care. I might keep this in my car. I'm not sure. I want to keep one of these in my car, and I don't know if it's going to be like this one or if I'll make another one. But just in case we want to have a picnic sometime or just anything, it'll already be in the car and ready to go. So yeah, I might be making another one of these because I went through my tubs in the garage, and I had a tub and a half of denim still left out there. And I did get rid of some of it. So now I just have one tub of denim left, but still, it's a lot of denim. So I'll probably be making another one of these very soon. But yay, this was another huge victory for completed projects. Then some other really big projects that I was working on was our medieval fair costumes, and some of you might have noticed that I didn't post a video 2 Wednesdays ago, a couple Wednesdays ago, and that's because I just couldn't do everything, you know. My kids were kind of getting sick and I was behind. I knew I still had to work on costumes and everything, and I was just like, I can't do it all. So I decided to take a week off. I don't like doing that, but it was so helpful. I was not having to worry about getting videos edited and all that stuff, so I was able to just come in the sewing room and just sew, and it was very nice. And so I made a Viking costume for my husband, and we used a black sheet for the pants. They were our sheet set that we had before, and then the fitted sheet wore a hole in it, but we saved the flat, and that's what I used for the pants. It worked out perfectly. Then for the top, it's actually this muslin fabric that I got at the thrift store last year. I got about 14 yards of it for $3.50, which is an amazing deal. But it was just like the bleached muslin fabric. And we hand dyed it this beautiful red color. It turned out really, really good. I'm so happy with it. I'm going to have a whole nother video on our costumes as well, just because there's a lot more detail I want to go into about them. But I made the entire costume from stash except for the trim. We did go and buy the trim that you see on the tunic, and that's just because we definitely wanted that look for a Viking costume, and we just didn't have anything that could possibly work for it, so we did buy that. But I'm really happy with how the costume turned out. Then I also made myself a costume, and I can't remember which video I mentioned it in, but I wanted to make a costume that was kind of inspired by the Evil Queen, since my daughter was dressing up as Snow White. So I had this purple fabric, and I literally just like cut it out and sewed from the bottom of the sleeve all the way down to the bottom on both sides and called it good. I didn't hem anything. I didn't do anything. It was such a lazy costume, but it worked out. You know, I didn't have time to do anything else, but it was fine. After that, I had a piece of the red material left. I mean, I still have all of this, but I had like one kind of rectangular piece that was left from cutting out the tunic, and I decided I was going to make an apron. I've been meaning to make an apron for a while, like a full apron. I was trying to pick out what fabrics I wanted to use, and I decided to use that red piece that I had left. So I was going through my stash and trying to figure out what else I was going to use. I was hoping there would be enough of the red fabric for to be the bottom of the apron, and then have like a pretty print on top. But it didn't work out. There wasn't quite enough of the red, so I ended up doing it in reverse, and the red being the top. And so I was looking around for a fabric, and I opened this tub of fabric that lives under my sewing table. And I know it's under there. I see it all the time. I can see it right now. But I had completely forgotten what was in it. I knew it was flannel and like regular cotton fabric. I knew that was in it, but I couldn't remember any exact fabric in it. So I was going through this tub, and I did not recognize, like, every time I pulled something out, I was like, oh yeah, I own that fabric. And then I'd pull something out and be like, oh yeah, I had totally forgotten about that fabric, you know. So it was really funny just going through there and being like, I totally forgot. All of these were in my house. But long story short, I found this beautiful strawberry print, and I made a really pretty apron using this pattern right here. I made view 2, which is way up here in the corner, and it is technically a 2-piece apron because it's supposed to have buttons to where you can take the top off and where it just says a half apron. But I decided to go with snaps. There's red snaps right there. So the bottom looks like this, and the top looks like this. Yep. And I even had the binding and everything in my stash, so I did blue binding because I thought it was a nice little pop of color. Yeah. And I did French seams so that everything would be finished off nicely. There's French seams down here too. And I am just really happy with how it turned out. I think it's very cute. And I was able to use up that scrap of the red fabric and a fabric I had completely forgotten about. Oh, and this fabric over here, the reason I didn't want to cut into this and make the entire bottom out of red like I had originally planned was because I might make myself a Viking costume, and if I do, I might make one to match Jeremiah. So I'm saving this just in case I decide to use it for a costume. By the way, if you're wondering what else was in that tub of fabric, I had 3 strawberry prints actually. This whole stack of coordinating browns and blues. Homespun plaids. Some fun western prints. And a whole lot of other stuff. I also made some more unpapered towels for my daughters, and I actually did a tutorial on them, so if you haven't seen that already, you should definitely check it out. But I was able to use up a bunch of different flannels from my stash. Some were scraps, so I even pieced them together to make sure they were large enough to make the unpapered towels. And while I was doing that project, I decided to kind of give myself a little challenge, because I have a lot of bobbins that are colors I don't use that often, and there's not very much on each bobbin, but they're all just sitting there, and if I mess with them too much, they just get tangled up and everything. So I decided to challenge myself to use up as many of those partially wound bobbins as possible. And I believe while I was making 7 unpapered towels, I went through, gosh, it was like 5 bobbins or something like that. And that's not even counting like when I top stitched them on the outside. This was just sewing like the scraps together and then sewing them before I turned them right sides out, because when I turned them right sides out, I put matching thread in. But for everything else, I was just using random colors, and it felt so good to clear out some bobbins, and now they're ready for if I do a big project or something, I can wind a whole bunch of thread and be ready to roll. I think that is it for today. I have rambled on and on and on and on, and I'm sorry if it wasn't very interesting. But yeah, that is everything I've been working on. I have been incredibly motivated to sew. I am not very motivated to film or edit right now, which is kind of bad because I need to get back on top of things, but that will come. And until then, I'm having a blast sewing for my stash. So I don't know if just looking at it, if you can tell that I've made any progress, but since I know like where things were and all that stuff, I can definitely see that progress is being made, and it feels incredible. And yeah, let me know what you are working on from your stash, and just, I want to hear what all you're doing, how it's making you feel, everything. And if you haven't checked out the Facebook group already, you definitely need to go do that. And I will see you all again soon with a new sewing tutorial, and then in a couple weeks, another Sew Your Stash update. So until then, happy sewing!